Da, da, da. Hi, so today I'm going to be answering a question that came from one of you. I'm going to read the question and do my best to give you my honest answer. This comes from Dylan B. I'm just going to make sure that we have sound because I've screwed that up like 10 screens in a row where there's no sound on any of the stuff. So with any luck, this actually does have sound and works. And almost forgot to turn on my amp so that I have notifications. So there we go. Sounds like there is sound, which means I can go ahead. So, see, we're getting professional here. We're doing things right. All right, so today I'm going to answer this question. This comes from Dylan B. Lewis, hi. I have a question unrelated to board repairs. I hope that you'll be able to answer it. I know you're busy. I am dating someone for a year now who I like very much. We seem to get along well enough. Yeah, keep in mind for later. She doesn't want a relationship. She has said that it's not that she doesn't like me, but wants to preserve her freedom. I don't know if I am doing anything to smother her or make her feel this way, and was curious what I should do going forward if I want a relationship with her. So let me just preface this by saying that if you want advice on how to fix a motherboard, you should ask me. If you want advice on what to do with your first $200 or your last $200 and you're starting a business, I can help you out. If you have a business that's failing and you want to be able to transition that into a successful business and parachute into the new business without losing your shirt, I can help you. Relationships? You're coming to the wrong person for advice. So take everything that I say with a grain of salt, talk to people you know that are successful with relationships, and see what they have to say about what I say. But there is, I feel, a philosophical component to answering this question, and I want to try to answer that. So philosophy is always the search for truth, and I want to start with, first off, the definition of the word freedom, because I feel that the definition of these words are very often used to trick people. And government is great with this. You know, the whole idea and you can tell because if I speak out against public education, people will say, you don't want people to be educated if I criticize the Department of Education. If I criticize Office of Welfare. You don't want people to have help or welfare? And if I criticize the Federal Reserve is where money is saved. Like, you know, people have this, they don't understand that the Federal Reserve is for counterfeiting, not for helping you. But there's this thing with vocabulary where people use these words so that you're not allowed to criticize anymore. And when it comes to the word freedom, the first thing that we need to do here before we get into any romantic discussion is define the word freedom. I define freedom as the ability and the opportunity to pursue my happiness. So let's just break that down. The ability and the opportunity to pursue my happiness. So let's just create an example. Let's say that I'm Ruby Lewis, right? Great Broadway performer. Let's say I'm Ruby Lewis, but I live in Antarctica. I have the ability, I have the dancing skills, I have the Broadway skills, I have the singing skills, I have the ability to be a great Broadway singer, but I live in Antarctica. No opportunity. Now let's say that it's me. I live on 44th Street and 9th Avenue. I've got a bunch of friends in the show business. I know my way into that entire scene, but I have this raspy, garbage, disgusting, drank too much last night voice and this face on stage. I have the opportunity. I sure as hell don't have the ability. So I've always defined freedom as the ability and opportunity to pursue my own happiness. And it's one of these things that occurred to me when I moved out of the apartment that I was living in as a teenager. You know, I always had this concept in my head that freedom is just, you know, being on your own. Freedom is being able to eat Cinnamon Toast Crunch for dinner and not have anybody complain. Freedom is being able to go to bed whenever I want. And I had to start redefining the word freedom after I had moved out because I had attained what I thought freedom meant, which is being on my own. And the problem that I had is that though I had defined the word as, just being on my own and being able to eat whatever I want at 10 o'clock at night, and I didn't feel free. And that's what kind of caused me to dig further to get to this explanation of freedom, which is the ability and opportunity to pursue my own happiness. So in order to be happy, in order to feel free, I need to gain more abilities so that I know how to do more and I know how to contribute more to society. And then I need to find opportunities where I can use those abilities in a way that makes me happy. So I'm happy when I'm able to help people that would otherwise not be helped, when I'm able to solve puzzles that other people haven't solved. And so I learned the abilities that I learned when it came to repairing studio gear that other people didn't know how to work on, or these motherboards. And then when I had opened a store in this, or used to have a house call business in this area, I now had the opportunity for it. And I became happy. So then I started to truly feel free. And as time goes on, I find that I always have to learn new things and that I have to put myself in new areas with new opportunities to use those abilities so that I can consistently feel free. So I don't believe that freedom is this static target. I don't believe that freedom is this concept of, I live alone and I watch Netflix and I have my 2 cats and I can eat ice cream at 10 o'clock. That means I'm free. Freedom is this kind of moving target for me of always learning new abilities and always putting myself in new opportunities to use those abilities in the pursuit of my happiness, of my stated goal. So if we go back to this message, let's say that you're not being overly controlling or possessive. My question would be, why does your, let's see, I don't want to make, didn't want to assume gender, why does your girlfriend here, or I shouldn't say girlfriend because you're not in a relationship, but why is the person that you're dating feel that you are an obstacle to her pursuit of happiness? If we define freedom as the pursuit and achieve, the ability to achieve or pursue the, wow, I'm losing my mind. The ability to pursue your own happiness. Why does she feel that you're an obstacle in achieving her happiness? And now here I'm assuming that you are not being overly possessive. You're not saying, why are you spending 30 minutes on Udemy instead of watching this with me? Or don't go out to that class tonight. Or I don't want you experimenting. I don't want you, running wires on motherboards in the house or learning sculpture or learning architecture, any of these things. Assuming that you're not a bag, just some miserable fuck that is trying to keep her from improving herself. And I'm going to give you that benefit of the doubt. I don't know you, but for all I know, you are that type of person. But I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. Why is it that she feels that you are robbing her of her opportunity to be happy? Are you actually crippling her ability to learn? Are you crippling her ability to learn new abilities? Or is this just some fourth wave feminist thing where it's like my definition of freedom with no arguments, with no defense, with no rationality is not having people? Because if you ever studied something like group dynamics in college, and within all the crappy courses on that they have in college nowadays, group dynamics is actually pretty interesting. One of the things that they teach you is that a part of becoming free in group dynamics, a part of becoming free is embracing the fact that people have a need for other people. You cannot be free until you admit that which you require, that which you lust after, that which you want, that which makes you feel good. So I've always been particularly disturbed by this definition of freedom being I'm sitting alone and I have no responsibility to anybody. I have no I'm just, again, eating my ice cream and watching my Netflix at 10 o'clock at night. So my question would be, why does this individual see you as an obstacle to freedom? And can you push her to make an argument for why that is the case? And this actually comes back to something that Jason from STS mentioned in one of his videos about a few weeks ago. He had mentioned, he was talking about motivation at work and motivation to keep climbing the ladder, because one of the things you'll often hear is, I want to do good at work. I don't have time for a relationship. It'll take away my energy. And one of the things he said in that video that I liked a lot, what he said in one of these videos, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember, this was weeks ago, was, I have a wife and I have a child. I need to take care of that wife and that child. Now, knowing in the back of my head that if I screw up at work, I will not be able to provide for my wife and my child, this motivates me to learn more. This motivates me to do better. This motivates me to grow my business, grow my customer base, set up a sustainable setup so that I can work a limited amount of time so that I then have time for my family. He has a great channel. It's called STS Telecom. It's up to like 5 or 10,000 subscribers now. Really good content. You should check it out. And I agree with that entire idea, is that if you are in a healthy relationship, each person is supposed to help the other. Each person is supposed to motivate the other. You should feel more motivated to learn. When you're reading a book and you're to this incredibly boring chapter and you just want to go eat ice cream and watch TV, you should feel more motivation to spend that extra 15 minutes to make sure you understand the concept so that you become better at it because you want to be better for your partner. And I feel bad for people that don't see it that way, and if they don't see it that way, I would suggest that they are with the wrong individual, which comes back to my point. Let me just go back to your note to make sure I'm not going too off topic here. Where was I here? Which is, to turn this, let me turn it back around on you. So let's say that you say, what should I do to get this person see that they should be my girlfriend? And you've been in a relationship for a year. Now, not in like a pseudo-relationship because you're not calling it that. Now, there is some element of chasing involved, and there is some element of chasing after somebody that may or may not like you in the beginning, and that's supposed to occur for a limited period of time. Why are you still doing that 1 year in? That makes sense to do during the first date, the first week, the first month, maybe even the first month and a half if this is, Christy Brinkley or Ruby Lewis. But even if it's one of those, 1 year in, why are you still doing that whole chasing thing? So I'm going to turn the question around. Rather than the question be, what do I do to talk her into wanting a relationship with me? I'll turn the question around to, why do you want to be in a relationship with someone who uses the F word on you? You make me feel like I'm not free. If I am in a relationship with you, then I am not free. If we go back to my definition of freedom, which I feel is a fairly good definition of freedom, if we go back to the concept that freedom is the ability and opportunity to pursue your happiness, why do you want to be with someone that after a year does not see you as part of her happiness? And I don't want this to be misconstrued in the sense that you should have one person in your life that makes you happy, and if that person goes away, you're a complete mess and a wreck, and you have a nervous breakdown, and you can't go to work, and you don't talk to your family. I'm not saying put all your eggs in one basket. I'm also not saying not to be monogamous either. No puns there. But I'm not saying that you should have one person that you rely on for everything. What I'm saying is that if you're in a healthy relationship, that person should make you happier. If you have a healthy relationship, that person should make you feel better. So why is it that she does not see you as her happiness to pursue? And secondly, if this woman does not see you as her happiness, why do you want to call her your girlfriend? See, part of the fun in a relationship is knowing that the other person likes you, knowing that the other person wants you, knowing that the other person gets something out of it. If the other person is not getting happiness out of being around you, then why do you want them in your life? You can have them in your life as a customer, you can have them in your life as a vendor, you can have them in your life as a tax auditor, but do you want that person in your life as a girlfriend? I would say no. Then I would also turn the question around and ask her, well, if you're not getting freedom, which I would say is happiness out of this, then what are you getting out of this? Is it a financial transaction? Is it that you have a high-stress job and for half an hour a day you need somebody to provide you with emotional support so that you feel better, and once you feel better then you can just go out and forget I exist? Is it that you just want sex? Is it that your parents are pissed off that you're not on the track to having a kid, or that your friends make fun of you for being single, so you just need a trophy guy to have around that you don't really respect? These are issues that you really should discuss, and you are probably going to say something along the lines of, well, if I say that, she's not going to like me, or there's going to be an argument. Well, there should be an argument, because you've been together for a year, and she refuses to use a basic label on you because she believes that it affects her freedom. And I don't know, I would kind of personally take that as an insult. Not after a week, not after a month, but after a year. If somebody said, I feel less free because I'm around you, it's kind of fucked up, and it's not something that I would want to involve myself in. That seems like a very toxic environment. Seems like a very toxic type of pseudo relationship. And again, I have a feeling, I could be wrong, this inkling of a feeling that this comes from that fourth wave feminist idea that if you have the complete crapping on the group dynamics idea of admitting what you are dependent on to be free, of admitting what you want in your life to be free. If I admit that I like this guy and I want him to be in a relationship, that makes me less free. I've never heard a compelling arguments for that. I've heard that parroted so many times by certain fourth wave people that I'm not going to get into here. That's an argument for another video. But I've never heard it with an actual argument. I've never heard one of the people who portrays that argument tell me what it is that actually makes you less free. And above all, I've never heard one of those individuals attempt to, from a philosophical standpoint, define the word freedom. And words that remain undefined, words that remain vague, and words that are not defined with good arguments behind them are words that people are going to use to be full of shit, to mislead you, and to having a miserable, lonely, to pathetic fucking existence. And you know what? Maybe you'll wake this person up to the fact that that's what's going on in your head. Maybe you won't. But as long as you're honest, and as long as you're talking back and forth, and as long as you're at the very least, if you're lying to everybody else, not lying to yourself, you'll be in a better position afterwards. So have the difficult conversation. Why do you feel less free? Are you happy with this? What do you get out of this relationship, or whatever you want to call it? And this is a conversation that you should have, I would say, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months in. It's been a year. I know that this is probably awkward, but it's been a year. And I think I have an idea of what's going on here. So if I go back to this, it says, she has, let's see, where do we seem to get along well enough. What is well enough? Yeah, I mean, I've got well enough money to pay the rent this month. It seems like we'll have enough customers that I could pay my employees after I pay the rent this month. You see what I'm talking about again when it comes to defining words and vocabulary? These words here are telling me that we seem to get along? Fuck does that mean? Does that mean that if you're walking down the street that I would look at you from 10 yards away and say, hey, they seem like a happy couple, but then if I listen to you, it sounds like you're, fucking Archie Bunker and I don't know. Honestly, I really feel like your email has answered your own question. With that, we will get to chat and see what people have said. Can't download updates. Damn straight you can't. I'm streaming. And hell if Time Warner is going to give me enough bandwidth to stream and download an update at the same time. Sure as shit not. Let's see. Relationship advice would not be something I ask Lewis. Well, you have a brain. Let's see. Get wrecked Windows. Indeed. Windows 10 is literally malware. It is. All right, let's go into the YouTube chat now. What do we have in this chat? I'm in a relationship, laughing my ass off, I'm in a relationship with someone who doesn't want a relationship. Pretty much. I've never heard a dude complain about this scenario before, LOL. It's interesting because there's this another thing. If you get most of your ideas on relationship from television, you're probably going to have bought into that bullcrap that like men never want relationships and are pigs and are not emotionally deep and have no depth and blah, 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 and that women are these complex creatures that have all of these emotions and that they're always the ones that want the relationships and the evil men are not. Again, just stop drinking the Kool-Aid. Stop drinking the Kool-Aid. Stop believing everything you see on Fox and WB11 and CBS sitcoms. Because it's not the way the world works. I mean, they're all lying to you. I mean, they really are. I mean, even I forget the name of the show. It's a good show. It's one of the really popular CBS sitcoms. Like, the leading ladies' man in the show is gay in real life. I mean, not to insult him because he's gay. I'm just saying that these are all false characterizations based on fiction. And, yeah. Let's see. There is noise and sound. Well, there you go. What do you think about open relationships? There's that whole idea if I date the same person for long enough, I'll get bored of them. And I think this has to do with the whole fear of depth. It's one of those things that I've wanted to do a video on for a long time. This whole concept of social anxiety and fear of and there's this. How do I put this? There's this thing where a lot of people they think that they cannot socialize with others, and they'll call it their own social anxiety, and they'll think that it's all their problem. And it's one of these things where you may notice when you meet new people, there's this like 3 to 5 minute timer that goes off, and right after a certain period of time, the conversation stops. You're talking about the weather, you're talking about something stupid Trump did, you're talking about, you may be talking about some headline, you're talking about sports, how about that game last night? And then after that, the conversation just trails off into shit. Or you talk about where you're from, and then you talk about like where you're going to, and it's like, it's those boring little conversations that we have because we're unable to talk about shit that people actually care about. Like I remember sitting down to dinner with some people a few months ago, and somebody's like, we were all saying what we're going to do for the evening, and somebody says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm blaming the baby boomers for the fact that they fucked up our generation, destroyed our economy, and created the original creators of virtue signaling." And like everybody just stared at me like, and like even people that agreed were just like, "Oh." It's like, you just can't have real conversations with most people, like whether they agree or disagree. In the beginning, it's all these crappy little conversations that have no depth because people are afraid of getting to anything that's actually important or interesting or worthwhile. And that kind of sucks. And there's this whole idea that you need to be with multiple people because if you're with the same person, it'll be the same thing over and over again. And if you're with somebody where it's the same shit over and over again, I would say that that's a real fear of depth on either your part or the other person's part, because a relationship is something where you should constantly be learning, you should constantly be changing, it's supposed to get better and better over time. It's like a new experience every day, and if it's not, there's that whole fear of depth thing. It's the same thing with the whole social anxiety or the being afraid of going out and talking to people. I've told a lot of people, I don't think you have social anxiety. We're having a conversation just fine. We're able to talk about a number of these different issues. I think the issue is all those other people out there. You're not afraid of you're not afraid of your interactions. You're afraid of how other people are going to react to what you say. You're afraid of I can't. Oh, PP5. I get it. You're afraid of how other people are going to react to the things that you say. And because they're afraid. They have to consult with their local gender studies professor before they answer anything that you have to say, because if they say the wrong thing, the thought police is going to come along and get angry at you. So you're afraid of how other people are going to become agitated at a regular conversation. Therefore, you start to retreat into a hole and not talk. But is that your fault, or is that the fault of everybody else around you? Because most of the people that I meet that say they have social anxiety of some sort, they're perfectly fine having a conversation. They're not shivering. They're not worried about anything. It's other people's lack of ability to have a real conversation that is the issue. It's not you. And I would say that in the many of the times that I talk to people that have these open relationships, there is a serious lack of depth. There is a serious lack of ability to have real conversations. There is a serious inability on at least one of the individuals in that relationship to divulge anything about themselves, to be honest about themselves, to share. And because they can't do that, they never get to the next stage in the relationship. And since they don't, it feels like you're dating the same thing every day, when in reality, yeah, it's the same person, but it should be a new experience every single day. And if you're not having a new experience every single day with the person you're with the wrong person, or there is a serious lack of depth there. And that's something that I think is at the root of a lot of social anxiety as well. Let's see. Usually this is home talks, but not at work. Strange. My air conditioner died, so I'm kind of... I really kind of don't want to go back home until I get an air conditioner. I'm also putting off carrying one home from Home Depot. Oh, I'm happy that you fixed your issue. I am not going to insult you by trying to pronounce your name. you'll charge back your donation. But thank you. This seems like another case study of someone being way too obsessed with women. They're not worth chasing in this kind of situation. I agree. Again, 1 year in, and that person has said up front, if we go by my definition of freedom, you are not what makes me happy. Well, guess what? They just use a different word to say it. Because if they say, you're not, if the woman says, or the guy, this can go both ways, if the woman or the guy says, you are not what makes me happy, but when I'm stressed out, it's decent to have you around, or when I want to fuck somebody, it's decent to have you around, or when my friends are around, they'll stop bothering me if it looks like I have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. Well, that's kind of a hard thing to say. But if you just say something like, I want to remain more free, without digging further to get to the reason, then it's not as offensive. I think it should be as offensive, and that's what I'm trying to get across. I'd rather be lonely than a cash machine for some lazy, well, yeah, can't disagree there. This will all be ruined by my destroyed DPA microphone. It is finally time for me to get a new one. I just don't want to spend the money. Divorce, it is up for debate whether relationships restrict freedom, but divorces do restrict your freedom, and 90% of divorces amongst college-educated couples are initiated by women. From the statistics I've looked up, it was more like 50 or 60. So I'm interested if that's changed. I wouldn't be surprised, but yeah. Marriage, alimony, that's another 8-hour video on its own. What's the status on the coil board, aka the tantalum cap next to the coil? I gotta buy caps that fit that one, Chris Long. What is this drink? This is water. I know you have no reason to believe me, but this is actually just tap water. I like to get some H2O with my fluoride every now and then. Intellectual discourse is discouraged and undervalued. I agree. Lies, it's vodka. It is not. You can't, here, smell this. Smell this. See? It's water. It's water. In 30 years, the technology will be there to prove to you that this is water over YouTube. How do you get your fluoride? I get my fluoride from my tap water. I get my fluoride from Alex Jones. It starts with people not starting off correctly, I believe, says someone on Twitch. People used to meet in person doing an activity they love. There they have one of hopefully many things they share. Nowadays, you swipe pictures. Point taken. A good point. I believe that water was mixed with 90% alcohol, 50-50. Nonsense. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. This is water. Asking him to chug it in one go. That wouldn't do anything, because if this was vodka, I would do it anyway, but fine. See? Water. Water. Well, mostly fluoride, but a little bit of water. Can you explain the reason for red probe on ground when you take a diode reading? Please. Reverse biasing. Look at the numbers that you get when you have black on ground versus red on ground for most of the measurements I ask you to make. You won't get shit. Reverse biasing. What if it was tap water from Flint, Michigan? No. No. No amount of money to drink that. No. No. Doing same as you, paid like shit. Start your own business then. Watch as Lewis loses his eyesight over the next 15 minutes. Let's scroll up. What have I missed? Why am I using the crappy monitor instead of the good one? I don't have any board views today, so I have the luxury of the monitor that doesn't burn my eyeballs. All right, this is great. This is an awesome monitor. This monitor burns your eyeballs. So I don't know, for some stupid reason, I keep putting the chat on the eyeball burning monitor. Wide shade after a words. You can change single into relation on Facebook. Grow a go. Well, it's not the word, it's what the word represents. We're not just talking about the word. It's, it's like, why, how do I put this? It's like saying, why do you care if you're poor versus if you're well off? I mean, it's just a word. It's not about the word poor, it's that I don't want to live in a cardboard box on Fifth Avenue. It's not the word, it's what the word represents. And if the word represents that someone else is using you, then that's something that's at the very least worth a conversation, I would say. And it's most certainly worth a conversation with the person that you're in the relationship with, rather than with me. Do you really believe that social anxiety is a result of other people's lack of ability to have a conversation and not a real disorder? I think I have the same opinion on that I do about ADHD and ADD. There's probably legit cases of ADD. Like, I'm sure that one out of every 9,000 cases of ADHD is properly diagnosed. And I would say that there's probably something similar with social anxiety. Again, we just walk out into the world and try to have real conversations with people. Because I thought this was the case when I was a teenager. And then I noticed when after having done enough business and, after I went through my internship at Avatar when I was 17, and then I went off into the world and started repairing stuff at other studios and having conversations with random people, I'm not afraid of talking to anybody. It's not me. I would talk to somebody, we'd have a good conversation. I would reach something away from the weather or the crackling noise, and then there'd be that. Well, you could just tell that their asshole just clenched up and they got all afraid and like their face turned away. And because there are just a lot of people that are afraid to discuss anything real. And I guess for most people that were raised to care what other people think of them, they are now anxious because they don't want other people to think badly of them because they were trying to have a real conversation. I was raised in an environment where for self-preservation, I could not care what other people or authority figures thought of me. So, I was lucky in that sense, because if I didn't grow up like that, I'd probably have terrible social anxiety. But yeah, don't project other people's issues. Don't let other people project their issues onto yourself, is the point of that. If you have legit social anxiety, where even if it's just talking about the weather or saying hi, you're fucking scared and shivering, that's one thing. But if you think that somebody else cramping up in a conversation is your fear, no. Just think about it. Do you want to work for Samsung? Not really. I don't know. Is it a good job? Do I make a lot of money and do something that I enjoy? Yes. Anything else? No. Turn down the blue light in the monitor settings. No, it's not blue light. It's like when a letter is written, everything on this monitor looks like it was written on a piece of paper that had alcohol just tossed on it. I don't know what it is. Samsung usually makes good screens, but this is a... I got it for free, so I can't really complain, but it sucks. Will you move to Nebraska? Fuck no. No, not after that hearing. I thought something similar at times about my inability to relate to people. In the end, the problem wasn't that I couldn't do small talk, it was the inability of others to try to engage deeply. I agree. Mm-hmm. Change your true type settings. I did. That doesn't do shit. Calibrated every which way. All right. Time for me to get out of here. It is Saturday night, and I've had a little bit too much water. It's time to go and enjoy something a little bit different. So that's it for today. Hopefully I answered your question, and as always, I hope that you learned something.